Okay, now that we got the fender out of the booth, I actually put a bake on it so we could get to buffing this right away. Again, using tape, I'll tape up my edges so I don't go through. You don't want to sand through these edges because paint doesn't like to sit on a curved surface as well. So we'll tape that off so we don't sand through. Also, when you use that hard block like that with the plexiglass, where you got dirt nibs and it'll take those off. If you had something soft and you tried to sand out anything with a softer block, it just kind of rides over it. So it doesn't really, you need something that's flat that will take off the top, not just go over things. You know, you could be able to get a dirt nib out of it with a softer block, but it still wouldn't look straight when you're done. So basically I take my sandpaper and with a piece of plexiglass that I have, I'll just wrap it around it. And then I just take an old bottle and just put a little soap in it, either car wash soap or Dawn soap or anything like that. You want to be able to glide across the paint. You don't, water, it's real hard and it gums up your paper. Also, you want to soak your paper before you start. If you can leave it 24 hours in a bucket of water, that's usually your best, at least that long. I actually just leave it in there. So right now I'm just gonna black over it. And like I said, I'm not gonna get too aggressive on this because I only have 3 layers of clear. If we were doing one of our show cars, we'd put 6 to 7 layers of clear on it. And I would start with 600 grit instead of 1,000. Right now we're just gonna kind of see how much we've got, and once I squeegee off some of the water here, you'll see where I got it and where I didn't sand it, where you can still see the orange peel in it or the dirt nibs yet. As it's drying, you can kind of see with the shiny areas yet. You know, that's important because we're not going to use the hard block anymore after we do the first sandpaper with it. We're not going to go and do it again. So we're going to just block this off, and you're always rotating. You can see how the sandpaper starts to fill up. So you want to just keep rotating your paper. For this area, again, I want to be, you know, a little softer block to make the curve. If you wanted to, you know I can see where I'm sanding, but if you wanted to, you could tape up that crease also. Right now I'm just running over with the same grit with a softer block. Make sure it's all smooth. After the first time I cut it, I use guide coat on it. Because that lets you know if you've gotten that scratch out. A lot of people ask, how do you know when you've sanded enough? Well, the first time you want to get it flat. If I put guide coat over just regular paint, it doesn't stick to it. It just doesn't, because there's really no scratch for it to bite to. But now that there's a scratch in it, it'll allow me to put guide coat on. And I rub it in, and it is got a graphite, so it is a little bit gritty, and it does bite, but honestly, it'll stay in the scratch, but I'll rinse it off with water. But when I sand it off, it doesn't scratch it like you might think it would. You can see that the guide coat's on there, and even though I rinsed it off, you can still tell that it's still in all the scratches. So now I moved on to 1500, and no longer am I using that hard block, but again, not using my fingers to go with the fingers, always with the meaty part of your hand going against it. So now I'm just sanding, and you can see as I'm sanding, the black goes away. The black edge, that's just a little ripple of clear left, and that's common. And you typically don't see that unless you have some type of guide coat on there. So now I'm working that out. I'm just gonna sand it till all that's gone. Again, just rotating the sandpaper on the block. And I'm actually using my palm a little bit right now to sand with. But you can see right where you're not sanding well enough, it'll leave the black in there. Once I get it to 1500, I'll pull my tape off so I can sand up to that edge with my 2000. Because if you leave the tape on it, you can never get right to the edge and it'll be kind of ripply. Now that I got it off, I'm not really as afraid of going through that line as I was with, say, 600 or 1000. This is what I mean about the edge that I had taped off, that it wouldn't let me sand tight against that edge. And if I went to buff it right now, you'd see that orange peel along that edge. So I'm going to reapply the guide coat, and you can see how the guide coat doesn't even stick, like I said, to the non-sanded area. So now I'm down to my 2000. I'm going to do the same, sand that out, and then I'll go right to 3000 TRIZACT and 5000. So when you do the TRIZACT, I don't put guide coat on. You sure could. I know there's people that do, but kind of just get a good feel. I don't worry about sanding through so much in the TRIZACT, so I don't really guide coat that. But if you'd like to, you know, once you feel comfortable, you probably don't need to. But if you like to, you'll definitely know where you've been and if you've missed a spot or not. And the better you sand, the easier it'll buff for you. You know, there's some guys just hate wet sanding, which I'm one of those guys. I'd much rather do about anything than wet sand, but it's a necessary evil. Just get it sanded well, because it'll make your buffing a lot easier. Okay, as you can see, I got rid of all the black, meaning I got it all sanded. I'm going to rinse it off. I've got two. These are actually been used before already, so you know they last quite a long time. The blue is the 5000 and the grayish green is the 3000 grit. So you just get yourself a DA with a hooked pad, and it's insulated, it's got foams. One, it helps it wear longer. If it was really hard, it would wear out real quick by having the insulator pad on it, but helps it last longer and then roll over your panel. So now we're just trying to make that 2000 scratch turn into a 3000 scratch and then a 5000 scratch. Okay, now we'll switch over to the 5000. Kind of rinse it off.